Manchester United fans, I honestly think it's now safe to say that whenever we come up against a team that sets up in a deep low block, Sesko has to start, because if you really watched this game closely, you would notice that we simply couldn't play our normal game at all, and there is a clear reason why. From the very first minute, West Ham made a conscious decision to sit deep, wait for our mistakes, and look to hurt us on the counter. They didn't allow us to play our usual football because they understand that we are most dangerous when games become open and transitional. At the same time, they also know they are a very good counter-attacking team themselves, so instead of pressing us high, they stayed compact, absorbed pressure, and tried to strike when the opportunity came. But the most important thing they did, and this is where the real problem started for us, was how they completely overloaded the midfield. At some point, it genuinely looked like the pitch had shrunk. Yes, the London Stadium pitch is slightly smaller, but this went beyond that. They defended extremely narrow and compact, completely blocking the middle of the pitch, because they know we love to drift into those central areas, make runs from deep, combine quickly, and take shots from the edge of the box. So they crowded that zone with bodies, stopped every movement we tried to make there, and deliberately forced us wide. And once they pushed us wide, they were comfortable, because they had their fullbacks and wingers ready to cover those areas, and they also knew we don't really have the height or aerial dominance to consistently punish teams with crosses. The truth is, in games like this against low-block teams, if we had wingers who could truly threaten from wide areas and beat their man consistently, it would have changed the dynamic. I also believe that if we had taken more risks, pushed the game onto them, and stopped playing so safe so early, we could have imposed ourselves better before conceding that goal. Instead, even with all those spaces blocked, we kept recycling possession, playing it safe, moving the ball mostly between our centre-backs and midfielders, without really committing numbers or taking risks to destabilize them. And going forward, Sesko becomes very important against teams that sit back. When the opposition overloads the midfield and shuts down the central space, it becomes extremely difficult for us to play through the middle, and it also exposes another issue, especially on the left side. Most of our threat comes from the right through Ahmad, and even today he didn't have his best game, but on the left we don't have a natural winger who can consistently stretch the defense. All we can really do from that side is cross the ball, and if that's the case, then you need a striker who can attack those crosses. Having a tall striker like Sesko changes everything, because once the opposition realizes that crosses are a real threat, they are forced to adjust. They can't just sit narrow and crowd the middle anymore, they have to protect the wide areas, and the moment they do that, space opens up again centrally. That's when we can start hurting teams both from wide areas and through the middle. Crossing becomes a real weapon, not just a hopeful option, and it's no coincidence that the equalizer today came from a cross to Sesko. That tells the whole story of what this game was missing. However, it's also important to say that this doesn't apply to every opponent. If we're playing against a team that wants to dominate possession, press high, and take the game to us, then playing Bumo or Cunha as a false nine makes perfect sense because we'll be counter-attacking and playing very direct football. And another big factor we honestly have to talk about again is this whole 5 wins in a row agenda so this guy can finally cut his hair. I genuinely think it's time we stop giving this thing attention, because whether people like it or not, it is starting to affect us. You might disagree with me, and that's fine, but I really believe this agenda is putting unnecessary pressure on the players and subtly affecting how they play. Yes, playing for Manchester United already comes with massive pressure, but if you watched this game properly, you would notice something was off. Today, we played very differently from how we normally play. Suddenly, everything was slow, cautious, and overly safe. It honestly looked like the players were scared to make mistakes. Nobody was shooting, nobody was taking responsibility, and that is totally unlike us. What's funny is that whenever we draw or lose a game and the whole 5 wins in a row count resets, we usually play with more freedom and expression. But every single time we start approaching that 4th or 5th game in this agenda, the noise grows, the pressure builds, and suddenly the players start playing safe football, slow tempo, sideways passes, recycling possession, no risk. I'll tell you this for free, on another day, without this whole distraction, we beat this West Ham team comfortably. But once we get close to that 4th or 5th win, we start playing differently, hesitant, and too safe and slow. So we end up just passing the ball around the back, barely committing numbers forward, barely daring to gamble. You might not agree with me, but I truly think this agenda has some influence, even if it's psychological. That being said, the players still have to take responsibility. They should have imposed themselves more and taken the game to West Ham. Instead, we allowed West Ham's game plan to work perfectly. We walked straight into their trap and couldn't find a way out. Ironically, it was only after we conceded that we suddenly woke up. We started taking risks, pushing the ball forward, committing bodies, creating chances, and playing with urgency. And that just proves the point, the ability was always there. Before that goal, we barely did anything. And remember, during the pre-match show, I clearly warned about how deadly West Ham are on the counter and exactly how we needed to stop them. If you look closely at the goal they scored, it was exactly what I talked about. They love exploiting the wide areas. Luke Shaw got beaten, and in that situation after he allowed the ball to bounce, but Martinez is supposed to cover and impose himself. I said it earlier, Martinez has to operate as the left centre-back in a back three when Shaw overlaps, shifting left to delay or stop the counter until Shaw or Mbeumo recovers. But if you watch the goal again, Martinez didn't engage Bowen at all, and that hesitation allowed Bowen to cross the ball comfortably. From there, the damage was already done, and the whole defense were just ball watching that goal. Now let's be very clear about something, this team is not a finished product yet, and I've always said that. This Manchester United side is still a work in progress, not a perfect machine, and games like this expose exactly where the gaps are. If you watched closely today, you would notice that the midfield was simply too slow. On a good day, with a more complete squad, this is the kind of game where you make key substitutions to inject energy, legs, and intensity into the middle of the pitch. But that option just wasn't there. Casemiro struggled with the tempo, and I think that is because this game came without enough rest. Meanwhile, Mainoo worked extremely hard and covered a lot of ground. We all know pace has never been his biggest strength either. He was doing the job of two players at times. And when you then look at the bench, there was no reliable midfielder Carrick could turn to and say, "Come on and change the rhythm of this game." That alone tells you how thin we still are in key areas. But that's not the only issue. We also desperately need natural, prolific wingers. The system we are playing right now depends heavily on wide threat to function at a high level. Carrick is clearly trying to find solutions with the players he currently has, and that's why he adjusted the attack to play more through the middle using Cunha and Mbeumo, because both of them naturally drift inside and combine well in central areas. Luke Shaw overlapping from left back makes that idea workable. But the problem comes when the opposition overloads the middle, like West Ham did. Once that central lane is blocked, it becomes extremely difficult for us to penetrate or break lines with through ball for players making runs. And it is also difficult to beat them from the wide areas too, because we don't have natural wingers who can consistently beat their man out wide from the left. Without that threat, everything becomes predictable. Everything now has to go through the middle, and that is where they blocked. That's why I keep saying the board has a huge job to do in the summer. If we truly want this project to move forward, this squad has to be strengthened properly to cover these clear lapses. And finally, you could also see the physical side of it today. We were slow, and fatigue was obvious. This team didn't have a full 5 days rest, and it showed, especially in midfield. The legs weren't there, the sharpness wasn't there, and the biggest issue is that we can't even rotate effectively because there are no players on the bench capable of maintaining the same level. Until that changes, games like this will continue to expose us. Now this is exactly why I think United's strand is the main reason many fans are feeling more sad than they should about this result. Let's be honest with ourselves for a second, we just went on a run of 4 wins in a row and then a draw, yet people are disappointed simply because we didn't get that 5th win for him to cut his hair. That alone tells you how this whole agenda has shifted focus away from the bigger picture. It has genuinely made some fans forget how much real progress this team has made in such a short space of time. And that's dangerous. I honestly believe this whole thing needs to stop now, because our actual objective has never changed. The goal is Champions League football, and whether people like to admit it or not, we are clearly moving in the right direction to make that happen. We can't afford to get carried away by side narratives and distractions. This team has improved massively. Tactically, mentally, and in terms of togetherness. Just look at the teams we've beaten recently: Manchester City, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Fulham. Those are not small results. Those are statement performances. Yet suddenly all of that is being ignored because United Strand didn't cut his hair. That should never outweigh the football. We don't need this distraction right now, not at this stage of the season. What we need is focus. Focus on what we're building, focus on what's coming next, and focus on how we can keep improving this team. Progress doesn't disappear because one game didn't go perfectly. We are doing well, and it's important that we acknowledge that, appreciate it, and keep our eyes firmly on the bigger picture instead of getting lost in unnecessary noise.